referring to. So please tune in and encourage your friends to tune in. We start in 7 minutes. Okay. Let me just give you another clip, make sure it sounds good. Ready?
Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you
is
want to put a lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your,
up, man?
Listen, you were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president
vice.
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in.
I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officer.
Don't ever use that word.
Oh.
Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that
I
word.
read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
Congress avoided a government shutdown as the Senate passed a funding bill late Wednesday, Donald Trump signing it early Thursday. The bill keeps the government funded through December 11th, avoiding a partial government shutdown. Even though it became law after the midnight deadline, no government operations were expected to be disrupted. But things aren't moving quite as swiftly when it comes to another coronavirus relief package. Although Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin are negotiating again, they failed to reach a compromise on Wednesday. House Democrats postponed a vote on their $2.2 trillion proposal to allow more time for negotiations. Republicans want to spend less, but vulnerable lawmakers from both parties are pushing for a deal before Election Day. Please? Have you recovered yet from the presidential debacle that aired Tuesday night? Well, the Commission on Presidential Debates said that the acrimonious and messy meeting between Trump and Biden, quote, made clear that additional structure should be added to the format of the remaining debates to ensure a more orderly discussion of the issues. With 2 more debates coming, the commission said it will be carefully considering changes, promising to announce them shortly. Speaking from opposite world, Trump campaign spokesman Tim Murtaugh said the only reason organizers were calling for changes was that, quote, their guy got pummeled last night. Former FBI Director James Comey testified Wednesday before a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing where he defended his role in the early investigation of Russian election meddling and contacts between Russians and members of Trump's 2016 campaign.
Know that a nation that does not have America's best interests at heart wants to reelect Donald Trump. Let that sink in. Let it guide how you think about the way we ought to conduct ourselves going forward.
Senate Republicans say the FBI inquiry, which was later taken over by special counsel Robert Mueller, was intended to undermine Trump. Democrats argue that Republican lawmakers are using their investigation to boost his reelection chances while failing to address Moscow's attempts to influence this year's election. In a related story, Trump's puppet, Director of National Intelligence, the heinous John Ratcliffe, on Wednesday, just hours before the first debate, declassified a Russian intelligence assessment alleging that Hillary Clinton approved a campaign to stir up a scandal against Donald Trump by tying him to Putin and the Russians' hacking of the DNC. He released that even though he admits in the disclosure that, quote, the intelligence community doesn't know the accuracy of this allegation. So he declassified and released a report that he admits could be false or exaggerated? Got it. Congresswoman Katie Porter grilled big pharma executives in a House Oversight Committee hearing on Wednesday. She eviscerated former Celgene CEO Mark Ellis with her now infamous whiteboard.
Mr. Ellis, do you know how much you personally received in bonuses over the last 2 years just because Celgene raised the price of this one drug, Revlimid?
I receive very generous compensation, but I don't know the exact number that you're referring to.
In fact, you personally received $500,000 personally just by tripling the price of Revlimid. So to recap here, the drug didn't get any better, the cancer patients didn't get any better, You just got better at making money. You just refined your skills at price gouging. And to be clear, the taxpayers spent $3.3 billion on Revlimid.
A judge on Wednesday granted Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron's request to delay the release of grand jury recordings in the Breonna Taylor case. The deadline had been set for noon on Wednesday, but the judge pushed it back to midday Friday. A spokesman for Cameron saying it was, quote, to give us proper time to redact specific personal information of witnesses from the 20 hours of audio recordings. In the days after 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse was charged with fatally shooting 2 protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the Trump administration reportedly instructed federal law enforcement officials to be sympathetic toward the shooter when talking publicly about the case. NBC News reporting that it obtained internal Department of Homeland Security talking points that prepared officials for questions from the media. The document reportedly told officials to note that Rittenhouse took his rifle to the scene of the rioting to help defend small business owners, and that he was, quote, chased and attacked by rioters before allegedly shooting 3 of them. That's not true. The Department of Homeland Security refused to comment on the leak. The talking points echo Trump's comments on Rittenhouse, who noted the teen was trying to get away from protesters before shots were fired. Again, not true. And finally, a judge Wednesday approved an $800 million settlement for victims of the Las Vegas mass shooting. It was 3 years ago, October 1st, 2017, that a man opened fire from his hotel room at the Mandalay Bay Hotel in Las Vegas, aiming at a country music festival happening on the Strip below. 58 people were killed and nearly 700 more wounded in what is considered the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. And that's just a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener supported, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com, and please click on that donate button.
Live from our nation's capital, it's the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Good afternoon, America. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine, reporting a safe social distance from Washington, D.C. Did you watch the presidential debate on Tuesday? Were you able to sit all the way through it? Did you turn your volume down? In what has been universally cast as the worst presidential debate in American history, by everyone from the far left to the far right and everyone in between, from Fox News to MSNBC to CNN, what Dana Bash, in words I don't think I've ever heard her say on CNN that I actually can't say on the air. She used a 4-letter word beginning with S and ending in T when she called it a show. To Wolf Blitzer, who said there should be no more future debates. To Fox News, who was terribly disappointed on Fox and Friends and actually advising the president, understanding that, well, you know, he has nothing to do but watch them every morning, actually telling him that maybe he should interrupt a little bit less. Well, it would be cruel, unusual punishment for me to sit you through the entire debate. I won't do that, but I will give you, I don't know, the best, worst, most memorable, ugliest. You choose your adjective. Here's 3 minutes from the debate.
Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because
Actually, I should stop there. I may pause in between. I promise, I hereby promise, I will never, ever use the word smart when referring to Donald Trump. That's one promise, Mr. President, that you've given me that I will keep. Moving on.
You know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme
is
Court justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your,
up, man?
Listen, you were
Well, you shut up, man. That was literally my favorite moment of the debate. I'm going to riff on Will You Shut Up, Man. But let me be quiet and listen to them argue with each other. You don't need me interrupting. There's enough interrupting going on.
senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up.
His own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers.
Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business.
You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis.
We have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, good in every way.
It's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take in that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
Is it?
Let me just stop it right there. We're going to talk more about the president's express refusal to condemn white supremacy and why the president does not want to condemn white supremacy or even white supremacist terrorist groups, which, need I remind you, are the most dangerous terrorist groups in America. Far-pacing radical Islamic groups, or to the extent Antifa is a group, and I don't really think it is one, I'm not aware of them killing anybody at all. We're going to go over there, I promise. But let me finish. Mercifully, we are less than a minute away from the end of these Washington Post clips.
That you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years.
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax.
Not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. You'll get to see it. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore.
Did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead,
Yes, I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order. Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers.
Now, in listening to those 3 minutes from the Washington Post was actually kind of unfair in that they chose perhaps some of the rare seconds in the 90 minutes where they weren't talking over each other. That was rare. And perhaps, as I said, 3 minutes out of 90 minutes is what they could grab. But that wasn't the general impression of people who watched the debate. No, listening for real answers to real questions was kind of like, sifting through a haystack looking for a needle. There were a few in there, but you had to search hard, and it was a painful task. Look, the general impression of most Americans who watched the debate was a lot of yelling. Mostly it was Trump interrupting Biden. It was Biden sometimes pushing back. And above all, and now I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Hate when that happens on radio. Excuse me. Yeah, see, I'm interrupted too. Trump. Yeah, Trump did, I think they said 71 interruptions. Biden did about 20, so about 3.5 to 1. But it got so bad that when the moderator, Chris Wallace of Fox News, actually asked Donald Trump to not interrupt anymore, to maybe let Joe Biden answer a question, to maybe respect the rules of the debate, which both sides had agreed to, which allowed them 2 minutes of uninterrupted peace. I don't think at any time in those 90 minutes did Joe Biden get 2 minutes uninterrupted. What you saw was Donald Trump push back against Chris Wallace, against the Fox News moderator, until he and Chris Wallace were yelling and screaming at each other. It was kind of like trying to pacify a 5-year-old boy who's having a tantrum. It's not easy to do. Let's face it, if you've ever tried to pacify a child with a tantrum, it's not easy. And he just would not be silent. In fact, the Commission on Presidential Debates is now working on changing the rules, totally because Donald Trump destroyed the debate. And who knows what they'll do. I like the idea of the guy that said that the microphone should be like a chess clock, that you have to push the button in order to talk, and then you use up your time. And if your time runs out, boom, your mic's shut off, and the other guy gets to speak for the rest of the time. I kind of like that idea. But there are other ways to do it. Buzzers can sound and other ways. Here's the thing. Most people who... by the way, my producer, Mark Grimaldi, ensures me that his 3 and 6-year-olds behave infinitely better than that. I apologize, Mark. I do not mean in any way to suggest that Donald Trump is your typical 5-year-old. He's far more ill-behaved. You're right. The vast majority of 5-year-olds are better behaved. So please, I did not mean to insult your children. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. The general impression, as I mentioned, from the commentators, Dana Bash and the others, was this was terrible, that we shouldn't have debates, that we learned nothing. I disagree. I actually think we learned a lot in that debate. No, we didn't learn much about policy. We never heard Donald Trump's health care plan, which doesn't exist. We never heard Donald Trump admit or deny that he only paid $750 on his taxes. Yeah, no, we didn't hear much policy.
Live.
But I would argue we did learn a lot from that debate. I would argue that we learned the id, the mind of the President of the United States. We learned that he has, yes, less dignity than a 5-year-old child, that all he can do is rattle off nonsensical lies, because that's all he is. We'll be right back with more right after this break.
Remember, you don't have to be there to be there.
You can say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You can ask with an app if it works for you.
So my apologies to my producer, Mark Grimaldi, who reminded me that his 3 and 6-year-old were infinitely better behaved. And I've seen them. I have no doubt that that's true. So to be clear, yes, an ill-behaved 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. Hey, folks, hope you're enjoying this new setup here. I'm speaking to you actually during the breaks. Kind of a little different from what we've done before. You can still hear the commercials in the background. And of course, those listening on radio can't hear me right now. This is just for you, special Facebook. Oh, that reminds me. I need to share this on Facebook. It's also for those of you listening on YouTube and Periscope. Let me go ahead and share this so that others who like to watch as well as listen can join in. I'm going to do that right now. We'll be right back with more in about 3 minutes. Ooh, a bunch of people have been writing in my chat room. Laura Pinkleton writes, "Shut the hell up, man. A slogan the entirety of America can get behind." I don't know about the entirety, Laura. I'm trying, though. I think 60% of us can get behind that. Although she says even the people she knows who supports Trump want to keep his mouth shut more. Okay, you may have a point. Yeah, Alex, I'm definitely going to mention the tax returns. There are words here that I can't say on the air. True, Jennifer. When you're mocking people who struggle with addiction and can't condemn white supremacy, it's hideous. I couldn't agree more. All right, going back on the air shortly. I can hear what you thought of the show. Just please don't use the words Dana Bash used, that S word, calling it an S show. We can't say such things on the air, even though she said it at CNN. There were so many things about the debate. But again, the overarching was absolutely the tone, was the incessant interruptions by Donald Trump, the refusal to let Joe Biden get a word in edgewise. And Joe Biden, I got to say, fought back. Every time he said, "Well, you shut up, man," or "you clown," or oh, I'm hearing my own voice. Sorry about that. Apologize. Technical problem there. That's what happens when I open up Facebook at the same time. Anyway, no, Joe Biden did manage to get a word in edgewise, and basically acted, I think, like any of us would have to such a barrage. Most people got it. Most people who wrote about it, and I had a whole thread open on my Facebook page, were just sort of shaking their heads and couldn't believe it. One of my listeners actually said, "Well, I think they both sounded really bad." And I responded to her by saying, "Look, if a guy comes up to you on the subway and said that unicorns had kidnapped your mother and now they're accusing you of being a child molester, how would you respond? You might back away slowly. You might look to get out of the train. But if you can't do that, if that's not an option because you're trapped there, you might just sound like Joe Biden. Okay. Will you just shut up, man? Will you just chill?" I thought he handled it with actually good humor. I think sometimes a smile is the best way to deflect against ridiculous things being headed your way. No, Joe Biden didn't hit the ball out of the park. I actually think the person who's going to hit the ball out of the park is Kamala Harris. I'm really looking forward to that debate this Wednesday. Kamala's on her toes, and I have no doubt she'll run rings around Mike Pence in a much more stereotypical debate where I think they'll actually talk about, I don't know, national topics. But only one person on the stage Tuesday night was qualified to be president. Only one person on that stage knew what he stood for. Only one person on that stage was willing to have a standard debate. That was Joe Biden, of course. Donald Trump did what he always does: bluster, yell, scream, interrupt. And for all those people who said it was a terrible debate, it was awful, it was impossible to watch, yeah, it was hard to watch. Yeah, it wasn't fun. But that doesn't mean it wasn't instructive. That doesn't mean it wasn't useful. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good debate in the sense of what it's trying to achieve. Remember, the debate is not designed to appeal to people who support Joe Biden or Donald Trump. right? I'm voting for Joe Biden no matter what. You can tie me down and put a gun to my head. I'm still voting for Joe Biden. And there are Trumpists who feel the same way. They are solid white supremacists and hate black people, and they love Donald. How could they not? We'll get to that in a minute. But really, the debate is for the approximately 4% of Americans, the 1 in 25, who claim they haven't made up their mind yet. Now, I don't know where that 4% lives. You know, we could look under some rocks maybe, or hiding in manhole gutters. I don't know where. Manhole tunnels, I guess I should say. I don't know where they are. I don't know how you cannot have an opinion. But those people, to the extent they were tuning in, and the extent they were from swing states, so undecided voters who care enough to tune in and are from swing states, how many are we talking about? A few 100,000? Maybe not even that many? But that was who the debate was for. It wasn't for you. It wasn't for me. We can be amused or horrified. The question is, how did it affect those voters who are genuinely indecisive between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Well, for those people, I think the debate was very useful. If there was ever any doubt that there was one and only one serious contender for the presidency on that stage, all you had to do was watch the debate. You may not agree with everything Joe Biden stands for, or you may think that he doesn't go far enough to the left. But whatever you think, shouldn't we have, I don't know, an adult in the room? Or at least a well-behaved 5-year-old? We'll get to the specifics of the debate. I do want to go through them. I want to start, actually, with Donald Trump's failure to condemn white supremacy. But above all, before we get to any of the specifics, white supremacy or taxes or climate change or Joe Biden on whether or not to expand the court or whether or not we can have free and fair elections in America, all very, very important questions, it is important to just take the zeitgeist of the debate. Let me suggest that when you're arguing for more than a minute with the moderator and trying to scream over him, you're probably not winning a debate. The irony is, and in fact this is what even Fox and Friends was telling Donald Trump through the TV screen, that's how they talk, was that Joe Biden didn't have to win the debate. Donald Trump lost it. I mean, Joe Biden is not the most charismatic speaker of the day. The man sometimes stutters. If you didn't figure that out, watch the beautiful piece from the boy who stutters, the 13-year-old at the Democratic National Convention who bravely fought through his stutter in what I think will go down as the single most memorable part of that convention. Yeah, Joe Biden stutters. Yeah, he seems a little slower than he was 12 years ago. And Donald Trump is a corrupt, raving lunatic who can't tell truth from fiction, is on the take from the Russians, owes them hundreds of millions of dollars, and is out to destroy our democracy by encouraging people to commit violence, particularly his white supremacist friends. And Joe sometimes stutters. Make up your mind. Election day is around the corner. In Virginia, we're already voting. In fact, that's true for states all across the nation. I think something like a couple million votes have already been cast. Now, I haven't voted yet. I just haven't had a chance to. I got all month of October to do so. But I'll give you a hint. I'm voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and my Senator Mark Warner, my Congressman Don Beyer, Democratic Congressman. And if you're a Virginian, I'm voting no on Amendment 1. So there you go. There's my ballot. But we are going to get to the specifics. I am going to go there after the break, and I do want to take your calls. But it's important just to look, this debate, I think, may well be the last one that undecided voters watch. I think many people who saw this debate turned it off and said, I'm voting for Joe Biden. And that's good enough. That's good enough. We had a primary discussion where we could argue whether Joe Biden was the best representative of the Democrats. You know, some people preferred Elizabeth Warren. I respect that very much. Frankly, I probably agree. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden is a fundamentally decent man who cares a lot about the American people and cares more about them than he does about himself. Could anyone say the same thing about Donald Trump? We'll get to the specifics of the debate, but honestly, I don't think they matter. I sincerely believe Joe Biden won the election on Tuesday night. We'll be right back right after this.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from?
To read the Facebook comments, and I need to turn down the volume on that when I do that so I don't get feedback. I think I'd have this technology thing down by now, but I'm not a millennial. I'm Gen X, so bear with me, please. All right, let me turn off my volume. And let's just go through some of the comments that we have here. And by the way, folks, you're welcome to call in as well. 888-48-MARK, 888-488-6275. I'm going to read some of your comments, though. Laura Pilkington points out that, yes, another 200,000 dead. We could lose another 200,000 dead. Yikes, it's true. Alex points out, why did not Trump condemn white supremacy? Because Trump is a white supremacist. Yeah, that's true. We're going to play that next, that clip. Jennifer points out that as a disabilities right advocate, the worst gut punch for her was when he was mocking addiction. You know, maybe I'll play that clip as well, where Joe Biden is proudly talking about his son, Beau Biden, who won medals for his service in Iraq, risked his life, and then died of brain cancer all too young. And Donald Trump returns by not even saluting Beau's service, but by attacking Joe Biden's other son, who had a drug addiction. And then Joe Biden bravely, I thought heroically, saying, yeah, he did have a drug addiction, and he got past it like so many others in America, and I'm proud of him. Thanks for bringing that up, Jennifer. If we have time, I definitely want to play that clip. Good point. Laura's glad she didn't watch. Yeah, it was ugly, Laura. it was ugly. Terry says 3 hours talking to most politicians would be a nightmare. I hope, Terry, you find him a lot easier to talk to than Donald Trump. I think 99.9999% of us are, though. Alex writes, my mom called it a show even before it began. This is some good comments in the Facebook, folks. Addiction is a disability. Yes, it is. Yes, I think Jennifer puts it clearly. I'm not a big Biden fan, but Trump galvanized my support for Biden. I think that happened to a lot of people on Tuesday, Jennifer. I think it's a good point. All right. Can't read the comments anymore. We're about to get right back on the air. Talk to you there. all kinds of questions. He asked hard questions, right? He asked Donald Trump about his taxes. He asked Joe Biden about whether or not he would expand the Supreme Court. We'll get to those. Those were good, tough questions. But sometimes a reporter just hands the person a layup, or to mix sports metaphors, throws them a slow pitch right over the plate. Mostly because it would be easy for 99.9% of politicians just to condemn white supremacy. Easy for most anyone except Donald Trump.
Support for WAMU comes from your part-time controller, specializing in nonprofit accounting. Your part-time controller helps nonprofit organizations with all of their accounting needs.
The vice president for not specific. You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing.
So I hope you could hear that. I know it wasn't that loud. Straight over the plate. Are you willing to condemn white supremacy? And Donald Trump's response, I mean, sure, yeah, what do you mean? What do you want me to say? And Joe Biden mentioned a very specific white supremacist group, one that's been declared a hate group by the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the one that Martin Luther King used to lead. A group that actively goes out and promotes violence. They don't just promote hate, they promote violence. They go out there and try to beat up people protesting against injustice. And I'm sorry they just got a plug here. I guess I won't give them any more attention much, because I don't think any white supremacists listen to my show. They're called the Proud Boys, and they actually had a meeting recently in Portland, Oregon. Very few people showed up, which I'm very proud to say. But here you have a violent white supremacist terrorist group, which, according to Trump's own FBI director, full disclosure, I went to law school with him, Chris Wray, according to Trump's own FBI director, white supremacist terrorist groups are the largest domestic threat to the United States. Far more so than radical Islamic terrorist groups, far more so than, you name it. In fact, as the FBI director, Chris Wray, pointed out, Antifa, which you never really hear about except on Fox News, is an idea. It's a few kids who are anarchists and like to promote anarchy. I should tell you, I have been to hundreds of protests in my life. I've led dozens. I've personally led dozens of protests. I've been to more Black Lives Matter protests than I can count. I've been to Occupy Democrats, Occupy Wall Street. I've been to about all of them. Protests against the war in Iraq. I remember them all. Protests for gay rights, protests against child abuse. I mean, lots and lots and lots of protests. I've never attended a violent protest. Ever. Not one. I've never seen violence go on in any protest I've attended, and most of them were pretty progressive causes. Never saw anything burned. Never saw... Oh, wait, I take it back. I do remember George Bush's inaugural after the United States Supreme Court declared him the victor in 2000 by refusing to count American votes. And I didn't see it, but I heard at that protest that one protester actually threw something at the car that George Bush was in. That's it. That's it. I've never met anyone from Antifa in my life. I do remember at least one protest where a couple black-clad young people, clad all in black, proudly proclaimed themselves anarchists. Yeah, I remember that. According to the FBI, Antifa, by the way, has not injured or harmed or killed anybody. But some Antifa members apparently have set a couple fires. Not good. Not good. I'm against that. They haven't set as many fires as the white supremacists have, but and yes, I have seen people engage in civil disobedience. I've seen a lot of that. That was actually what Martin Luther King and John Lewis did, right? When they sat at the Woolworth's lunch counter and demanded to be served in violation of the laws that said black people have no right to be served, that said that black people being second-class citizens don't have equal rights in America. They violated those laws. They sat at those benches in violation of the law. That's civil disobedience. And yes, I've even seen people block streets on occasion. And when you do that, you can be arrested. But that's not like white supremacist violence. That's not like the people in Charlottesville who first marched with anti-Semitic chants against Jews with torches reminding themselves of Nazis. And then one man literally took his pistol out and shot at a black man in Charlottesville before another white supremacist took his car to murder Heather Heyer. Or people like the person in Kenosha, the 17-year-old from Illinois, who drove across state boundaries just to bring his long gun and try to protect people from what? Black people? The people Donald Trump's defending. Joe Biden gave a very specific group. He said Proud Boys. And Donald Trump was hemming and hawing, and I don't know, should I condemn it? I don't know. And Biden says, what about Proud Boys? He says, just say it, man, just say it. I mean, Biden teed it up, right? You have Chris Wallace teeing it up. You have Joe Biden teeing it up. How easy would it have been for a normal human being to say, of course I condemn white supremacy. White supremacy is evil. White supremacy harkens back to our country's worst days of slavery and Jim Crow. White supremacy is wrong, and I condemn it with as much force as I can. And I will work as hard as I can as president to wipe the scourge of white supremacy off the face of the United States of America. And I don't like when leftist groups are violent as well. Is that so hard to say? Well, apparently for Donald Trump it is. I want to play the clip just one more time. Donald Trump says that, well, as a matter of, as a thought experiment, sure he could condemn white supremacy, but when said, say it, do it, condemn the Proud Boys, Donald Trump says, I want them to stand back and stand by. Chris Wallace says, well, you tell them to stand down. He says, no, I want them to stand back and stand by. So now they've got, memes all over the internet. Standing back and standing by for President Trump. They all saw it as justification for their acts of violence. Let me play the clip one last time, then we'll go to break, and then I'll get to you callers.
Criticize the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that,
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and white
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right.
Do it. Say it. Do it. It wasn't a softball pitched over a plate. It was more like a, that little, like a kickball with the ball right in front of your feet. It was, here you go. condemn white supremacy. Wouldn't do it. Can't do it. White supremacists are some of Trump's greatest fans because he himself is a white supremacist. We'll be right back with your calls, 888-48-MARK, 888-48-6275, right after this.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates.
If you want to call in, folks, the toll-free number is 888-48-MARK, 888-486-2775. I'll get right to your calls right after this. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Voices.com and on the PV app. You can also listen to Code WAC at heal-ca.org. This podcast is powered by Heal California, uplifting the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. I'm Brenda Gazzar.
He's a Harvard economist and a Yale lawyer. He does not keep up with the Kardashians. He's Mark Levine. Give him a call now at 888-488-MARK. That's 888-488-6275.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine. Lots to chat about the debate. There is Joe Biden's decision not to specify whether or not he wants to expand the Supreme Court. I'm thrilled as punch with his refusal to talk about that. And I'm happy to chat with you more about that when we get to the Supreme Court hearings, which should begin in earnest next week, although I may just be in Washington protesting myself. There was Donald Trump's failure to deny that he only paid $750 in tax returns. He once said that he paid millions, but now he's trying to get a refund for $74 million back. Let's just say that all of us have paid more in taxes than Donald Trump. And is that really the way we want our country to be run? There's also the fact that violence is on the up, that actually supporters of Donald Trump are going out and attacking people, like an old man in Minnesota. Yeah, between them and the Proud Boys, that's not really a very safe space. But I do want to get to your comments on it, and I know Michael from the Bronx, who I've called Old Faithful, has been holding on for a while. Michael, what's your take on the debate?
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. First off, let me just say that there's no doubt in my mind that Joe Biden clearly won that debate, despite how unfair everything was to him. The constant interrupting by Trump towards him and Trump interrupting the moderator at that. I mean, we need serious reform at that debate. I hear that they are working on that right now because there were so many people annoyed at what was going on. The guy does not know how to abide by rules that they both sides had agreed to. Now, if I was moderator at there, I would not have let the chaos go the way Chris Wallace did. Chris Wallace did a horrible job, I gotta say. Should have
Michael,
kept
I
Trump under
agree
control.
with you. At the beginning, he did a horrible job, but by the middle, he actually did fight back, and he tried. He tried. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, you can't jump up on stage and you can't really cut the guy's mic.
No.
I mean, he did. He was a little slow, but once he saw what Trump was doing, he did call. I mean, he had like an extended 1-minute argument with Trump.
But you
I
should
don't know
have
what
known.
anyone could have done.
But Mark, a moderator is supposed to know and be prepared on how the candidates, the people he's supposed to be moderating, handle themselves and be prepared to take whatever action necessary. Chris Wallace did not do that, and by the time he started
what he
doing
needed?
that, damage already done. What
He
should
needed
have
a
been
buzzer.
done to
He needed a buzzer. Wouldn't that have been fun? Just have a buzzer, like every time Donald Trump just bam. That would have been hilarious.
Let me explain how I would have handled it, because there definitely would have been real law and order in that debate if I was there. I would have cut the mic off if Trump couldn't shut up, like Biden and a whole bunch of others were saying at home. Shut up already. But I would have cut the mic off, and if Trump still persists on acting the fool, then I would have taken the liberty of saying, sir, you are hereby disqualified. We are not having this uncivility. Leave the premises, give him the Judge Judy treatment. The case is done.
I don't know, Michael. I don't think he
You're
would have
done.
been praised in the press if he'd actually ended the debate there and shoved Trump off the stage. I think he might have gotten a little bit even more pushback for that. But I appreciate your suggestion. One of the things that we saw in that was mentioned actually by some of my listeners in Facebook as the part that they found the most egregious was the way Donald Trump responded to Joe Biden's talk about one of his sons, Beau Biden, the Iraq war hero who tragically died of brain cancer just a few years ago in his 40s. And when a father is grieving for a child, particularly for a military hero, most people with any sense will let that moment pass, right? That's a gimme, right? A dad is allowed to praise his son who died young, particularly one who was a hero like Beau Biden. Donald Trump didn't let it pass. He actually switched to talk about Joe Biden's other son, who had suffered from substance abuse, and to attack him for that substance abuse. To which Joe Biden honorably said, you know what, my son did have He wasn't dishonorably discharged, but he did have a drug problem, and he got past it. I'm proud of him. Didn't try to cover it up. Didn't try to lie about it. Just said, yeah, folks get addicted, and we try to help them. This, I think, was maybe the clearest example among many in that debate of one man's inhumanity and another man's consummate humanity.
My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He made a fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions of dollars?
But he wasn't given tens of millions of dollars. That is totally discredited.
We've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
$3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about it. Gentlemen, that report is totally discredited.
Just another moment from the debate. So I do think this will be remembered as the "Will You Shut Up, Man" debate. And I think we need to recognize the power of Donald Trump's refusing to shut up and how it's shut us all down, right? We can't talk about him actively helping Russia commit treason and rig our elections because, well, now we've got to focus on the fact that he didn't pay any taxes. And, oh, wait a minute, he's telling us that we don't need to wear masks, even though 200,000 people he's killed. He's going to kill another 200,000. But meanwhile, he's trying to stop the post office from delivering ballots because he doesn't trust the election system we've had since 1864, the Civil War. And he's calling people in the military liars and losers. And just shut up, man. You know, one of the things when you learn about the rise of fascism, when you learn about the rise of authoritarianism, this is actually something that Hitler wrote about. It's you knock someone off guard, and before they can right themselves, you knock them again and again and again and again. You can't focus on one atrocity because there's another one around the pike. You can't focus on the burning of the Reichstag in Germany, the parliament, because then he's going to start rounding up people, and you can't focus on them because then he's going to start killing people, and you can't focus on that because now you're focused on your own family, and, well, then it's too late. What we didn't hear in that debate was silence. We didn't hear a chance for us to think, to take it all in, to realize what the parties were saying. Even if you disagree with something Joe Biden has said or agree with Donald Trump, how could you focus with all that yapping, as Joe Biden put it, going on? The goal is to get you not to think. Donald Trump supporters don't think. There's a reason why uneducated people support him. There's a reason why racists support him. It's all based on emotion and fear. It's not based on rational thought. It is my hope and prayer that in the next 2 presidential debates, there'll be some time to process what you hear. There'll be a little bit of silence just so we can figure out what's going on and address the topics one at a time. The West Coast is burning. We're facing a major climate catastrophe. And Donald Trump is going on and on about Joe Biden's son's drug problem? Mr. President, will you shut up, man? America needs competent leadership right now. They don't need this nattering, useless, purposeful talking. This is Mark Levine signing off.